I'm not able to make people come back in time, even if I tried. So like, but don't blame the Italians because not the case. So we are here for the second workshop, as you see on the program, and we are moving competence after competence. So we're gonna go all the five. Together we have today we have three. This one is the financial one about the economic topics, how to make business running, and then there is the next one at 4:30 that will become, I think, 5, but let's stick to 4:30. It's around multicultural. So yeah, Marta, please, can you present a little bit the speakers?
Of course, thank you. So for those who were not here earlier, I'm Marta Lupatelli, project manager at Engreen, and I will be moderating this workshop. So I will start introducing the speakers. We have quite the panel now. So starting from my right, we have Federico Trezza, project engineer at Engreen, and he works on citizen-led renewable energy communities. And he focuses on the technical implementation of distributed energy solutions. Then moving on, we have Domenico Vito, affiliated with San Diego State University. Moving on, we have Andres Gonzalez, affiliated with Comillas University of Madrid. Roberto Vigotti, Secretary General of Rest for Africa Foundation. And finally, Mauro Gaggiotti, who's gonna represent a Nostra renewable energy community. So without further ado, I would leave the floor to our speakers to further introduce themselves and what they do. So Federico, if you wanna start, we have some slides. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Marta. Thank you, everyone. I am very delighted to be here today, and I'm also excited since I've been here as a student, and now I was following the lessons from these desks. So now I'm on the other side. It's quite strange. It's exciting, really exciting. I've been involved in Engreen in several projects in Africa, and when it comes to the topic of energy community in Africa, I think this is a very relevant topic, since community in Africa are in general really important due to the fact that everything turns around community, the development, the changing in everything, especially rural areas. And so in this context, I was thinking on the importance for the community-led changing and innovation from the side of the energy hubs. But what is an energy hub? We can go to the next slide. Just to let you understand what is an energy hub. Unfortunately, we cannot see the photo because it was quite useful. But, well, basically, we can explain the energy hub with the analogy of the energy well. Usually, when we talk about electricity, we use water to explain it better. And even in this case, we will use the analogy with water. The energy hub is a sort of energy well. So we shift from the traditional grid model, which is like a water pipeline system, which is expensive, is complex, and usually is slow to reach every house, to the energy hub model, which is a sort of community water well, centralized high power source, where the community gathers to fill their buckets of energy, of course, not of water, like in the form of recharging for the telephone, for the batteries, or for the rechargeable lamps, and so on, which are the strengths of the energy hub. We can go on the other slide. The empowering of community is, of course, one of the main strengths. The model relies on the community management, and so is a community-led model, which shifts from centralized utilities to local member-owned energy cooperatives, starting from agri cooperatives or energy association, energy cooperatives. And the key pillars are indeed the democratic governance. Everyone has a say. Transparent tariff setting, since everyone knows the balance of the energy hub, of what is inside the energy hub, the energy which is sold, the energy which is produced and used. And finally, a social impact in all of these, since the income which are generated are invested in social aspects for the community or for the energy hub itself. So we can say that we are shifting from the energy poverty to the energy ownership, in which it's possible to see even a leadership layer which is going to be built. And all the photos that you can see in the slides are real photo of our projects that we are implementing or we have been implemented. And you can see the effectiveness, the practical outputs of that. So we can go to the main slide, which is the one related to the productive use of energy. We have talked about energy, but we just not bring lighting in this project. So we are bringing something which is more practical, more useful even in terms of economic income, so which are the productive use of energy. Those are really important, not just in energy hubs, but of course even in mini grids. In this case, the PUE, the productive use of energy, targets energy for activities that generate economic value, that are income generating activities and that can help in the economy of the society and in the economy of the community and of the energy hub itself. Of course, we need to strike strategic sectors for that. And so agro-processing in Africa is very important. So with solar-powered mills, irrigation, post-harvest processing, as well as cold chain. So for the refrigeration of food or of fishes in case of fishermen villages. And finally, small businesses in which we can electrify, for example, welding stations or tailoring shops and so on. So in this context, the productive use of energy is an effective economic multiplier. So through the productive use of energy, there is an increase, effective increase of the local GDP, and it is possible to create a financial loop. We can go to the very final slide. What is the financial loop, which is the driving force of the energy hub? It makes it possible to have revenues for make it sustainable. With the revenues of the productive use of energy, we can sustain to cover, for example, the operation and maintenance cost. And the cost of the people which are working in it, which are offering the service of the productive use that is inside it. Of course, it offers decarbonization, replacing the expensive diesel generators with clean, reliable solar energy. And them are scalable. In all of the projects that we are carrying on with Engreen, we usually install multiple energy hubs because they are scalable. We can use it in different contexts, with different communities, with different needs of the beneficiaries. And it's extremely easy to deploy with respect to an infrastructure more complex to the one which is the one of the mini grid, for example. So it depends by the context, but usually these are really, really effective. One key success factor, which is also a challenge usually in these kind of projects, especially when them are not fully granted, is of course the access to microfinance from the beneficiaries. And so access to microfinance is a factor which cannot be not taken into consideration, since, for example, for starting the business by purchasing, I don't know, the solar mill or the productive use, usually it is strongly needed. But we also experience that there is a lot of possibility in it in rural villages. So it's a challenge, but it's also not a sort of something impossible to reach. So thank you. I hope I give you a sight on a model in which we as Engreen believe a lot, and I think you can, if you have any question, I'm here for you available.
Thank you, Federico. Domenico Vito.
Thank you very much, and thank you also to Federico for highlighting something that also I will connect to, that is the topic of energy communities. So first of all, I will introduce myself. I'm Domenico Vito. I'm as well an engineer. I study in Polytechnic of Milan, and actually I'm a researcher at the Metabolism of Cities Living Lab at the San Diego State University. And I will start properly by the name of my lab. My lab is called Metabolism of Cities, and is based on the metaphor that cities can represent kind of living beings. No? They can have a metabolism. And what does it mean to have a metabolism? To have energy flows and material flows that can enter into the system, can transform, and so on and so forth, and then we have some output. Of course, to have like a good metabolism, the transformation that are across the system need to be efficient. And efficiency is probably a concept that engineers, and we engineers, we are very familiar to. And talking about energy communities is an interesting, we can say, mind shift. I will talk about that, not going into the technicalities of energy and so on and so forth, but probably thinking and trying to make a metaphor, a comparison with the biomimicry. No? Metabolism is also a metaphor that is biomimicry in nature, so we are taking cities as living beings, and I will try to do the same to giving you an extent with energy communities. So now there is a great discussion about this model, okay, because it's a new model of provision of energy. And sometimes also there are, we can say, contradictory and also sometimes resistance opinion against the implementation of energy communities. Are they okay? They can be, we can say, connected to the grid, or there is a certain balance to the grid, or they are unbalanced in the grid because, of course, they are, we can say, more, less, we can say, constant as a production of energy. But I will make you an example. No? The most advanced technology for gathered CO2, that's standing to some of the IPCC scientists, is the tree. And let's think about the shape of the tree. The shape of the tree is made by the roots. The roots are taking energy from the soil, and there is, we can say, they gather and go together into the trunk of the tree. But then the trunk is branches. And we can take this metaphor as properly the transformation that the energy system need to have. We started from, say, extracting energy from the soil, of course, from the fossil fuels. We gather together, we centralize the system of production, and now is the moment to decentralize and to think the production of energy more in a decentralized way. And that's a little bit the paradigm that, we can say, in a big picture, can bring the energy communities. Of course, the centralized system inside the development of societies, because it's important also to connect the energy system with the development of societies, were a good and fitting system when the cities are ongoing, okay? When the cities were developing, of course, think about, for example, the post-war reconstruction and so on. But nowadays, the cities has grown a lot. Has grown even in dimension by which the centralized system cannot comply to grant the energy security. That's somehow true into developed countries, and of course is completely true in the sense that it's not sufficient to supply energy into the developing countries. And so we have to change, before going and starting, of course, with the technicalities, we need to embrace the new paradigm of the energy communities. That properly because is an evolution, like nature has evolved from a centralized system to a decentralized system, need to be embraced properly like that, like an evolution of the energy system. And this evolution can have different benefits. Of course, benefits of a more capillary distribution of energy, but the benefits of a more efficient, because we can, for example, reduce the transportation costs, the transportation leakage, and so on. But not only. Here in this conference, also with some colleagues and also with the collaboration of the University of Naples, we are presenting a framework to evaluate the energy communities not only by a technical way, but also in a social and economical dimension. And as my colleague Federico was saying, implementing the model of energy communities is not just like giving a new technology, is providing a full change into the community that we are serving that can be environmental, social, and economic. And the value of this is within these three dimensions. And so in this, we can say, mindset, we can see that energy communities are a kind of a natural evolution of the energy system. And really, we need to embrace with, we can say, with courage, and we also with like a perspective that, of course, maybe sometimes is like not easy to manage, because we are introducing the concept of shared energy, for example, no? Into the European regulation. Energy communities are introduced in a legal way with the concept of shared energy. But, and of course, this is, we say, a little bit scary, because how to measure the shared energy, how to measure the fact that the energy is passing from different users and so on and so forth. But thanks to the evolution and also the technological evolution, we have also new information. Another concept by which my lab is working a lot is the concept of smart city. Smart city is the idea of the city supplied by data. The data that, of course, can help to manage all the processes that are there. And of course, one important thing as technologies, we have always be aware that if we want to introduce a new technology, we have to manage that, and we cannot manage if we are not measuring. This is something that, as an engineer, we have to, we can say, stick strongly on that. But we saw also today into the keynote, we have now AI, we have different technology, we have also the blockchain that can offer also a dynamic way to manage the energy communities. Of course, it's a new challenge, it's a new research challenge, but properly to that, as researcher, as engineer, as also new and possible future researcher, we have to embrace this with courage. And we have to embrace also with another term, and then I will go to the conclusion. Describing that, we can say that the energy communities are more diffuse, okay, because they can be more capillary, they're more democratic, they can grant a more accessible access to energy. We can define that as a high organized performative energy supplies. And if you collect the first letters of all these terms that I said, high, organized, performative energy supplies, energy community are hope. And as one of the big sustainer of renewable energy, also in USA, I think that you know, or maybe you don't know if you are too young, Mr. Al Gore. Al Gore was like a passionate advocate for the advocation on climate change and so on. Hope is a renewable energy, and we have not to let us go. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So I would now leave the floor to Andres Gonzalez.
Thank you, Marta. Well, I'm going to pick up where Dr. Yanis Georgios this morning left us, saying that engineers are all about purpose. I think that that could be a summary of what I'm going to share here. I'm an engineer, and then finding out that I was worried about how things work in the world and in developing countries, I studied a master in foreign service, and then thinking that economics has to do with everything that we do, I studied a master in business administration, and finally I ended up studying a PhD trying to solve most of these challenging problems that we were facing, meaning that as one of the pillars of our partnership is continuous and lifelong learning, this is actually something that you will never stop doing. Then, well, I am, presently briefly, I am a member of the Universal Energy Access Laboratory. I'm here representing Comillas University. Also, the laboratory has a pillar at the MIT. I have been for 30 years an affiliate researcher there as well. And recently, I mean, like many things that happen, end up in some entrepreneurship. We've noticed that from the academia, we had limited capacity to influence what was going on in the world. We already had developed the National Electrification Plan of Rwanda, the National Electrification Plan of Mozambique, but we found out we cannot do, we cannot have the impact that we want without the collaboration of the private sector. So we established Waya Energy, of which I am co-CEO and co-founder, and we developed 2 projects at the academia. Since then, we have developed, I think, over 25 national electrification plans and strategies and regulatory analysis in more than 30 countries, creating a portfolio of over $32 billion for investment in universal access to energy. So how does this work? And I'm going to bring back here, how can you make $30 billion investment doable in a developing country? And I'm going to also pick and take as a loan the concept of sustainable prosperity. So you have to combine at the same time financial sustainability, social sustainability, environmental sustainability, but also development, prosperity. You have to create, and we were reminded by Ian Green a little earlier about that, you have to create wealth in order for all your investments to be sustainable. But at the end of the day, also it's about trust. And that is also another of the concepts that I'm going to take as a loan. Because whatever you do, I mean, how are decisions made, which is difficult? When we started working in India, there were 500 million people without electricity, 500 million people. That was 2012. And we started working, we started spreading the word, we started looking at the problem. We tried to look at the problems from a systemic point of view, because that is where we located ourselves. We came from writing a report on the transition of power systems, which was the utility of the future, and we wanted to see how to transpose those concepts into the problem of universal access. And one thing I learned in India is when I went to the World Bank and told them, okay, how much is this going to cost? This is going to cost $500 billion. And I went to the World Bank and they told me money is not a problem. And I was kind of surprised. How can it not be a problem? It's $500 billion. They have the money. The money is going to come from the private sector. They need the will. They need to have the purpose. They need to have the objective of doing this. I didn't believe that. I didn't. But finally, a minister of India in 2014 decided that he wanted to do it. There was a meeting, CEOs, we were there as well. And he said, we are going to have all the villages in India connected to the grid in 1,000 days. And I said, okay, you're not Germany. And I don't even believe that Germany would do it. And Spain, no doubt, will not do it in 1,000 days. Well, they did it somehow. Reliability is poor. There are problems, but they did it. So it's true, it can be done. That's one of the messages that I want to convey here. Sorry, I have lost the pressure. So then what do you need? You need to know what you want to do. You need to know what technologies you're going to use, mini grids, energy communities, standalone systems, grid connection, things under the grid, whether it's grid connected or not. Then you have to know how, which ones are the business model, how are you going to execute a plan, how are you going to develop the regulation necessary to make that happen. And then you need how much, which I said is not the first problem, it's the third problem. So you have to make it sustainable in the long term, and you have to anchor it in productive uses. So you really need to talk about prosperity. And what I found out, and I have worked in Haiti, I have worked in Peru, I have worked in, as I said, 25 countries, including very difficult countries. Of course, there are financial difficulties. Of course, there is a scarcity. I'm not saying that is not there. But you have to build a business model that is doable. And those are prospering also in very low-income villages. But then if we have big problems, and I'm going to close with this, so not to extend myself, if we have big problems, you have to dare to think big. Sometimes we think the problem is too big for us. And I panicked a lot when I was studying this, and I said, okay, where are we going? But we're there to try to contribute at least a little. So we started with this scale and a systemic perspective. And we started to study how decisions, as I said before, are taken. So I'm going to end with this. We have to, you students have to dare I mean, here's John Paul II said, you have to dare to be a saint. Well, if you are uncomfortable with the word, you can say you have to dare to be a hero. And that is also here. Because things can happen if you follow the path that lead to that solution. Then, well, I think I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for the opportunity of joining there. Thank you to Professor Micangeli and to the Global Challenge.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm
Roberto
Roberto
Bigotti.
Bigotti. I'm the Secretary General of the Foundation Rest for Africa, which is very active in Africa since 12 years. When we started 12 years ago, you may not remember, you're too young, renewables were not so cheap. So the only way to make them viable in Africa was to import them in Europe, which was the desert tech concept, which was wrong, actually. But as you know, in the few last 2015, the cost went down and solar became, now it is the cheapest source of energy. So we are 30 entity, utility, banks, academia, Milano Politecnico, Sapienza, Professor Micangeli, someone else. And of course, you cannot do without them. You need academia, but you need also state regulation, and you need the private sector. And the wrong thing that somebody thinks private sector for the money, no, not for the money. Private sector as a technology. A private sector cares about operation and maintenance, which sometimes people forget. If you put, I've seen so many PV farms, PV installation in the desert, after 6 months, they disappear because there was no care on thinking operation and maintenance. Now, solar power is so cheap, and why then only 2% of the world renewable deployment happens in Africa? You know, there's more PV in Belgium than all Africa, more PV in Netherlands, you know, very sunny country, than Africa altogether. So we talked about it, because I mean, it makes me mad that Africa could become the powerhouse of the world. It could also become the industrial hub of the world with the critical material instead of selling stones. Why Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, they export cocoa beans, and you know how much chocolate is made there? 5%. Why the government of Cote d'Ivoire doesn't impose, okay, you want to buy my chocolate beans? Dark chocolate, don't do Kinder like you guys. And they don't care. Why this real shirt is Brooks Brothers, you know, American one, is made with Egyptian cotton made in Thailand. Why is not made in Egypt? You see my point? So Africa needs to industrialize. And sometimes the governments are lazy or they get enough money enough to don't care. So farmhouse, powerhouse, industrial hub. Then when I started PV, you know, they called me 1985, Cinderella Option, which is a lovely nickname. I was called, it's a book called Cinderella Option I wrote with Michael Grubb, but they forgot that Cinderella at the end of the game, she wins, you know? They forgot it. And now I'm really glad that now even Fatih Birol, the director of the IAEA, ex-OPEC guy, very dark, says, oh, Roberto, PV, 60% of the world. So we decided to go to Africa and may open the door. But of course, we started, I was a former Enel, so a big, huge company like a PG&D, like the France. And we said, okay, let's go there and make it renewable. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to do other things. You have to teach people, and that's why we have a community program. Professor Micangeli, Andrea is part of our program, because we need to change the mind, not only of the decision maker, because number one topic is the risky investment. Why the money is there? You are right. There's a huge amount of money, but it doesn't go to Africa. It goes to Brazil, to Colombia, to India, because the perception, perception is like in love. It's true sometimes. Maybe it's not true, but if you perceive your lover is not good, then done. And therefore, perception that Africa is more risky. If the cost of the money in Africa, tell me when I have to stop, because otherwise, the cost of money in Africa is 5 times more. If you do a PV plant in Italy, the money costs much, much less than in Africa. Why? Because the perception, not only love, but also in banks, that's there. So we decided to go ahead, and I will get 2 minutes more, and otherwise I have too much fun, you know. I was a student, you know how old am I? I'm 80. But don't forget, 1946, passion has no age. And when people ask me, why are you doing it? Because don't forget this last one, I'm giving back what my professor gave to me. I'm giving back, 80 years old, I'm giving back to you guys, the other one. So don't forget, it's free, They don't pay you for you give back, actually. Actually, they are even jealous of you. So finally, we create this community there. We have now number 46 training course for community leader in Africa with the Professor Mikanji and friends. Never enough. And by the way, 35% are female. So we are politically correct almost. And we want to do more, but the idea is not only training, is that we really need to empower. Now, what we found is that when we approach this topic, and really 1 minute I finish, promise, is that my former boss said, oh, you have to go there, big plants. No, it doesn't work. You have to go there and do water, energy, food, for instance. You mentioned. If you do energy only, you don't get the development of the country. You need to have water, energy, and food. You give energy, you don't put the bill, you give also pumping water, cooling. We calculated that if you approach the water, energy, food nexus, instead of the just energy, you can calculate how many kids will go to school because the family will grow the income. You see my point? It's very dynamic. It's not static. So again, we are developing cleaning, cooling. So go to our website, and the solution is scaling up rectification, not only renewable. I'm sorry, I'm a renewable person, Cinderella, grow up. But unless you link renewable to electrification, you don't go anywhere. You can find this one on the website. By the way, my website, Reds for Africa, is open, no registration, no password. I used to be a researcher, so I protect my right. I said, no, Mr. Vigotti, innovation must circulate. Don't protect you what you do. In fact, you can download whatever. And this is the topic we present to G7, G20, now is the mainstream also in the IEA. Electrification is a solution for Africa. Finally, just can download also, I don't sell anything, I just say, this is an academy brochure. We're very proud in all the academy section, and Professor Mikanji is part of it. So we're really happy to, there's Andrea. And we're really proud that together we are doing something remarkable. And again, when I came back, I was coming back yesterday from Kenya, by the way, you were not there. You feel better because you did a little bit something for yourself, for the other. So try to give back when you're grown up, okay?
Thank you. Please, Professor.
Just to add that Roberto Vigotti was defending my master thesis, so we are giving back to him as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the hint to the water, energy, food nexus. We were talking about it earlier during the previous workshop. So last but not least, Mauro Gaggiotti from Nostra.
Hi. I'm Mauro Gaggiotti. My English is not so fluent like the previous relators, but I try to manage it in some way. Just a moment. Okay. I would like to show one slide just to help you to follow. Okay, so okay, I try to present a model, a business model that we have in Italy. The second slide, please. This is Nostra, is my cooperative. I work for Nostra. I'm an engineer too. And second slide, please. Okay. And Nostra is a cooperative that was born in 2014 to buy from citizens who want to buy energy from a renewable energy producer only, but not just renewable, even ethical and sustainable energy. For example, not to buy energy from enterprises or producers that produce even energy from fossil or not only from renewable energy sources. In these years, we are able to provide energy to almost 20,000 members of our cooperative all around Europe, starting really from citizens, some citizens that will do something like you have expressed better than me. And now we have these activities in our cooperative that you can read on this slide. We try to to install collective plans thanks to the participation of our member. That means that we collect money from our member to build collective plans that can provide energy to that member that have financed this member, receiving them a tariff that is really near to the effective cost of producing this energy. And it is a really an interesting goal. We supply energy to our member. And in the last year, from 2020, we start to support the activation of energy communities all around Italy in the framework, in a new legislative and legal framework that allow the citizen to join together and produce and share energy in a local area. So we have support like almost 100 energy communities all around Italy. And what we have seen that these local communities are really different from each other. Every territories, every city, every little town or rural area really create different model of energy communities. And this is really interesting because allow us to understand a little bit more about the approach to be an energy citizens that was our citizens, our preferred citizens, we can say. And even we can have a view on what's happening now in Italy about energy transition, because every region has its specific needs, and build an energy communities means to listen to these needs mainly, and so to act as in a different way, independent on where the citizens want to build these communities. This is more or less our presentation. The last is that we are part of a network, a European network of cooperative, the RES Cooper, ES Coop, and this is another important place where to talk about a just transition model and about energy democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And of course, we cannot talk about renewable energy communities without mentioning RISCOP. So for sure, thank you. And yes, I think we can move to the most interactive part of this session. I think we have time for one question, right? Okay, so it's the same as before for those who were here. So we're gonna show here a QR code that you can scan. There will be a question, and you can answer the question. We will see the results live, and we will briefly comment it here at the round table.
So yeah, I'm sorry I asked for the internet for the one that don't have connection, but we had an hacker attack like 2-3 weeks ago. It's very kind of famous here in Italy, and so they only have the basic Wi-Fi going on for the one that have accounts. So I cannot fix this issue for you at least today. I'm sorry. But this is like, yeah, the first question is, we are speaking about communities. We saw like communities both in Europe, a new form of energy communities, renewable energy communities, like Mauro was talking. We're seeing like they are coming from a concept of mini grids in Africa. So how you manage a community like in Africa that is doing that needs this part of the workshop that we are discussing right now. So like how you manage the financial, how you do the business model that can survive after the length of the project. So now we see the results. Do you want to start
Yes.
asking the speakers for feedbacks?
Exactly. So the first question is, what primarily defines the success of an energy community? According to your experience, what would you answer to this question briefly? Who wants to start here?
Me? Okay. And on these items, like I think that a part of the will from the citizens that is really, really important, because it's the only way to succeed in the problem and in the difficulties and the challenges that you have to afford to fare. And I think that the main problem that a community have to face is now in Italy is a regulatory stability. I mean, we have from 2021, we have had a legislative framework that allowed the citizens to build an energy communities, but we have to wait 4 years to have the real possibility to register a new energy community in the system, and to be recognized for this. So it's a big problem, because people that really will to build, to share, to produce and share energy have to wait a lot to be recognized from this, and to have even an economic to build up and to have a cost benefit business model effective. And but in general, I think I want to just underline this problem, these topics.
Thank you.
I leave it.
So it seems like community ownership is the most voted. Do you agree? Would you say something different? Yes, sure.
So I would say that I will not say something different. So I quite agree with the collective intelligence, as we can say. But I was checking also the other results, and we have economic sustainability and governance and decision making. Actually, it resounds me also to my experience. For example, in the study that we did with the colleague Martina Bosone and Barbara Pirelli, we tried to approach also what the community did with, for example, with the incomes that were coming from the energy communities, no? And we saw different case studies. So energy community that just was sharing energy community that was sharing energies, that was making, I don't know, educational program, others that were making program for support the ones that has less possibility to pay the bill, for example, of energy. And we saw that, okay, the one that just share energy was not so interesting, and also nobody was knowing about the community, the energy community there. And so if you think about the success also in terms of also of replication and so on and so forth, the success rate is lower than in the case where there was like a movement around the energy community. So the energy community has shaped the district in a way, in different ways, because it creates the momentum, it creates enthusiasm, it creates also some real benefits in a social way, not only in an energetic way. So it's resound to me also because we can say the first one is the community ownership, so how much the community is feeling that, okay? The second one, I think they are linked, so economic sustainability and governance, because a good governance of the economical benefits can really make a greater impact than just, we can say, a good energy management.
Thank you.
Well,
Would you?
if I can disagree, not with Domenico, but I mean, most of the time when I've been voting today, I've been saying I would check all 4 of them and maybe a few more. But if I want to find out what primarily defines the success, I don't know if ownership is the biggest weight. I mean, you find all kind of communities all over the world. You find places where communities and cooperatives are very participative, very empowered. So if they are very empowered, they can carry on with the job of creating an energy community. But you find many villages where that is not possible, where there is no knowledge, or there is very little knowledge, but they want energy. So really, I mean, if I have to define out of those 4, which ones would be the most critical one, is that whatever you do, and Professor said it before, Bigotti, you need you need operation and maintenance. You need to keep it running, not for 2 years, not from the beginning. You need the knowledge needed for that. And that is a much more complex issue than even than economic sustainability. But let's say that if it is profitable, if someone can make some money out of it, considering subsidies, grants, or whatever is there, then someone might take care of it. If it is a tremendously ruinous business, actually it will die. So I would advocate for economic sustainability, just for the sake of arguing.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Then I think we collected plenty of insights related to that question. We move to the next one, which is what most frequently blocks the development of energy communities? And we do have the different options listed. While we wait for the audience to reply, what would you answer to this question? Yes.
Thank you. In my opinion, there are two major blocks. One is regulatory complexity. I found that in Africa, we've been trying to do community feed. It's easier to do a mini grid or something where there's no regulation at all. Otherwise, you ask the ministry things that they claim, well, in one day will come the line there, and also the unclear long-term responsibility. In this very moment, we are offering in Nairobi settlement and also in Johannesburg the possibility of having a peri-urban, let's call it peri-urban, actually called informal settlement, illegal in settlement, whatever, to make a case where banks are behind, they would like to finance. We are losing time because the local utility is not very clear if it's their responsibility, and of course, the regulatory complexity sometimes. So I think we have to convince the governments to embed, and planning wisely means that you do a mini grid there, and then in the future is also, you can also embed and intersect that. Otherwise, we end up with the so-called people who are behind under the line, there is no energy. So regulatory complexity and unclear responsibility. And we are suffering in Nairobi and in Johannesburg exactly so.
Thank you. Any other insight related to this question? Anyone else would like to answer?
You see the results, like
Yeah.
we have most of the people, they are voting regulatory complexity,
Exactly.
of course. And we have like unclear long-term responsibilities, what we said. That's what's hard, how to make it survive through time. And like we community engagement, that's another point for sure. And less like access to finance, it seems like it's the less voted. You know, anyone want to say why?
Please.
No, I was expecting also that access to finance and limited technical skills will not represent a great block, because also from our experience, when the community wants to make the energy community is going like straight, and it's no matter about, it's not a problem of skills, it's not a problem of technical access and so on. And I agree that the greatest block are, first of all, the regulatory complexity. The colleague from Enostra clearly explained. In Italy, for example, now we have a situation where this uncertainty has blocked a movement that was starting in a way. And yeah, a very resound, especially on the last results in terms of yes, they are not a block, because when the community wants, it's gonna go to do that.
I think we can jump to the last polling and see the last feedback, because we are kind of late and we're waiting for us. So we just do fast this, that I think it's very interesting, that is which phase of an energy community is most fragile connected to this one. And I think we can get the last two comments and then we close it up. Or we can pick one question from the audience, I don't know, but very, very fast after the polling.
Anyone in the panel who would like to say what would you vote here? I see that operation and maintenance is winning. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree. Even those in Italy now we have the most, or so at all the energy communities are newborn energy communities. So we don't know. I think that operation and maintenance is something that we have the energy communities have to face, but we don't have enough experience. The energy communities don't have enough experience to have these data to understand. But what I can say that we have experimented that the initial concept and design is a very important topics, because in that moment the communities recognize itself like a communities, and it's not like a community. It's not always an easy process, because are different people, different organizations that have to understand each other and to project design a collective goal to reach. So this is a really important, and it's something that if it's good done, allow the communities to face all the other blocks or problem that we have. So
Thank you. Yes, the last comment on this.
I confirm operation and maintenance for the simple reason that we try once in some small community to teach to young people to be electrician. As they learned, they left the village and went to the city to make money. So what we implement now sometimes, especially in India, but also in Africa, is the so-called barefoot college idea. The way that we teach operation and maintenance to young grandmothers, which is funny, but there are many young grandmothers in those countries, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends, and they are stick to the family, to the grandchildren. So it's very proper. They don't have to be, actually, they don't have to be ethical people. They don't have to be technical. They are just grandmother who care for the family, and it works because they are there young enough. So it may be strange, but of course, this is not universal, but the barefoot college idea in India is really the winning one, where we link, otherwise, young people, of course, I can imagine, you learn how to make an electrician, and then, okay, where is the money? In Roma, you go to make television in Roma. So operation and maintenance again, sorry, I'm an engineer, so I'm stick on that.
Thanks a lot. So we take one question from the audience.
Thank you very much. I'm Naj Meshkati, Professor of Engineering and International Relations at University of Southern California, involved with grand challenges for many years. Thanks a lot for the distinguished panel. I have a question. My question has two prongs. One of them is, I have been involved in the business of energy for 40 years. Nuclear plants, I have been to Fukushima, Chernobyl, 16 other nuclear plants around the world, BP Deepwater Horizon explosion, Texas City refinery explosion, many. I mean, renewable, fossil, nuclear, I have been involved. Here is my question. When we talk about the biggest hurdle to energy community, in my judgment, one of the most important one of that in United States is safety. One of the reasons that communities like the Diablo Canyon safety of the nuclear plant, people are against nuclear power in United States, voting for closing the nuclear power plant is a safety concern and worry. And the second prong of my question, first one is about safety. Where is safety in this year? It has caused the closure of refineries, closure of pipelines. In Canada, there is a Trans Mountain pipeline twinning that has been extremely resisted by indigenous groups because of safety and environmental thing. It should be there, at least my experience in the United States. Second part of my question, I have been doing a lot of research lately on the safety of a battery energy storage system. It's called BESS. These are the huge battery facilities that they store energy for reusable, but from the renewable energy. There was a big fire last year in Moss Landing near Monterey, California. They gave shelter in place to people. Many communities couldn't leave. There was similar fire in a battery storage facility in South Korea. There was in San Diego. communities are very worried about these BESS things. Is there anything in Europe like that happening? Have you had fires of this battery energy storage system that the government asked people to stay indoor, close their windows, and don't live? And that, again, my question had two prongs: safety, environmental consideration, and the second about the safety of this battery energy storage system. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please, Professor. Okay.
I thought there was going to be a fight to answer.
Okay, yes.
Okay,
That's
I mean,
perfect.
so
That's
we
perfect.
split
Yeah.
the answer. Amazing.
I will respond in this way. I don't know if I will fully address, but I will give you a hint on a possible point of view. Okay. Actually, once I was in a conference where the former Ministry of Environment of Ukraine was talking about energy reconstruction. And in few words, just to make it simple, she was ironically thanking the conflict, saying that the conflict has led the Ukraine energy system to change the mindset. And she was saying, actually, our main problem is that our centralized plants are most of the time attacked. And when we have been attacked by centralized, when the central nodes are attacked, of course, a lot of users are affected. And so they try to solve this building a distributed system with solar panels or other renewable energies and so on and so forth. Basically, the concept is that they turn, due to the hard pressure of the war, from a centralized to a decentralized system, because this was more resilient, okay? Because they, for example, if an area was attacked, they can easily hook to another area that was provided by renewable energies. And this, in a way, was helping them to have more safety, okay, of the full energy system. So was, for me, very strange, because I reflected, look, they are passing to another system, a diffuse distributed system, to resist to a hard pressure of the war attack. And say, wow, okay, so that means that is an evolution, no? Because if they can resist to the war attacks, that means that our centralized system has some, we can say, point of weakness. I will give, that's my feedback to your point. So maybe let's see in this way, and for sure, now I will give the floor for the battery part, and that I'm less competent, but for the sake of the energy supply, let's reflect which is more safe, a centralized one or a distributed one?
Thank you.
Both. I think you have to make a combination between centralized. I mean, distributed alone cannot make it, but of course you're right. Now in Italy, there will never be a nuclear plant anymore for the same reason I said before, perception. I mean, no bank will put money knowing that after a while the green will go there. So it's a perception. But personally, I voted against the nuclear referendum. I was in favor, of course. Now, for the battery, I'm sorry to say, battery are the third leg of the revolution for energy. Solar is going down, wind is going down, and battery is going down. Now, the topic that battery can be dangerous is a little bit like an electric vehicle. There is an opposition, like why don't you use green hydrogen? I mean, they're inventing against those things. Battery systems are going to be effective. In Italy, by the way, we are having a bid by the government for a huge amount of battery, so that even in Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, South Africa has made already bids for battery. Because if you have to reinforce the system with the gas turbine for peak, 800 hours, is not convenient. Better to use battery and renewable. So the name of the game is a battery, including not 100%, of course, a mix of nuclear, a mix of gas at the moment transit, but battery renewable is the name of the game for the future. So what's happening in your, I mean, by the way, I was an American field service in California in 1964 in Pasadena. I met even von Braun. when I arrived in California, you know, I was used to Italy, all song, and I arrived there, ba, 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 my God, what's the Beach Boys? You know, I was really shocked at that time. The Beach Boys singing for me. So that's why I speak American. But again, believe me, battery are the future to get renewable. So I'm not 100%, but battery will be. In Italy, in Sardinia, we are replacing gas turbine with battery, and South Africa is making battery. So maybe safety, it's a matter also of learning and skill. Because, you know, in Spain, there was a big blackout a year ago, and everybody was blaming renewable. Actually, it was not renewable, it was the grid, was not that. Okay, see my point?
Spain, that happened because the nuclears were shut down. That was my case.
Okay, yeah, Spain. I'm blackout. I cannot tell you how many hours we have studied that. Well, I mean, I'm gonna try to talk on about the security issues, which I think are central. I fully agree from the systemic point of view. A combination of centralized and decentralized efforts is convenient. We worked in the reconstruction of the grid of Puerto Rico after the Maria hurricane, and actually, it was evident that when you have a grid that is prone to being destroyed by hurricanes, and that is the situation of all the countries in the equator, most of them at least, a combination of distributed energy resources located nearby hospitals, refugees, schools, is central to having a secure system. That doesn't mean that batteries are secure. I think that there is also a learning curve there going on. But on that issue, since you brought out the topic of nuclears, and we recently had another accident in Spain. It seems that we have had a rough 4 years, a tragic train accident because of lack of operation and maintenance. So again, the fragile point, even in top infrastructures like that. I do like a lot how the French government approached the problem of Fukushima. There was a tsunami in Japan. In France, there are no tsunamis. The government could have said, that doesn't affect us, don't worry about that. But they didn't do that. What they did is, okay, starting today, we are revising all the security procedures of all our nuclear plants, emergency situation, all are under review for 3 years. And then came up with a plan and a more secure system. So it's also a problem of political will. Sometimes when a problem happens, your government says, it's the problem of the previous government or another, it's not the problem. But really, we have to address the problem. So it's an issue that we can take on as engineers. And about the blackout, if anyone is interested, I'm happy to comment in the meetings and in the corridors. It's an amazing subject. Yeah. Yes, no, and you're right. There was no inertia. The network operator was gambling with the system with a lot of renewables. It can be addressed with batteries who can operate as the great inertia systems, but the investment for that is not there yet, and it's also very expensive. So there are many things to take into account. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. It's always interesting when a debate starts that way, but I think it's time for us to close and leave the room to the next session. Thank you again for sharing your experience and your insight.
Yeah, there is a video. There is a video that now we are showing.
Sorry, yeah.
Let me see.
1 minute more.
They prepared something to launch some challenges. This was our year of a challenge from North Carolina State toward our communities in the world. Sonia is just arrived here, and Giacomo as well, last alumni. And this is the group, this is the Serving Learning Award. Our battle, our grand challenges battle had been with us all over our trips. This is service learning at the United Nations, service learning making new plants, service learning with the photovoltaic, realizing on the schools, realizing with the children, little boats. This is the new challenge that we are launching to you. Meditation in Nepal, This group of people is here around, is sustaining. These are the little children making their boats, their photovoltaic boats. This will be tomorrow the contest. This is in Nepal, this and last year. You can see the medal battle of the grand challenges always with us. This is the medal battle on Nairobi on a robot to clean the photovoltaic. This is really incredible. This is the in Malawi, your medal battle all around. This is the final thesis discussion. This is in Naples. This is here around. This is our symbol, and and you will receive this battle. This was last week. The people preparing, and this was the last motto, the Boda Boda, to come here. And yes, please. This was after the marathon, and this after the women race for the cure. And this is after my medal, silver medal in wakeboarding at the national championship in Italy. Always with my shirt of Grand Challenge Scholar Program. So now I'm launching a new challenge, the best picture with the Grand Challenge logo on your medal battle or whatever, okay? Let's do it from now to tomorrow evening, and then the rest of the year. Let's remember that the other prizes will be given for the service learning. Service learning will be done, is ready in the cluster, the material to make this little boat, photovoltaic boat, and you can make the challenge in the fountain of the, because we want to see the best design, the best efficient, and we will price it, as well as I remember that now at 5:15, we have to go to the little sisters here for the new service learning that is making with the ancient people just a meeting to evaluate the needs and to give some answer with technology presence and what we can do in the next days and months. And the other point is, please, let's stay together till the end, because today and tomorrow, these activities, these challenges will go on together. Okay? Thank you very much. Make your move for this partners. Make your move. Yes.
Spazio agli altri relatori. Thank you very much. Ma dobbiamo creare la prossima situazione.
Centenary of my institution and this house. I was with him, wife and my wife, having dinner and going to touch him, like some person. And when I realized he was one of the founders of like, just inspired us me to let's try to bring solutions to something looks like too big to be solved. Then you find out it's something can be